All right, we are coming up on 8 o'clock. So, let's settle in, get comfortable, and get ready to crack open a new book. Welcome back. This is our first night of reading something from the new additions to the public domain. As always, the start of the year is an exciting time for people who enjoy reading very, very old books. We had a brand new crop of additions to the freely available libraries, as they might be, whether they be Gutenberg, Internet Archive, or your other choice of source. This time, we see one of Faulkner's more darkly humorous pieces. It's not quite as heavy as what we saw from him in his first major work, The Sound and the Fury. We haven't read that one yet because it's a little much. We might get into it later down the line, but for now, I'd rather not, just because it's so damn heavy. But maybe down the line. But for now, this one is a little bit, I won't say it's lighter, because it is still very dark, but it's also got a humorous tint to it. It's a dark comedy, for sure. So, I think it should be a nice change of pace. And Faulkner is always a treat. So, without too much more preamble, because I haven't actually read this too much. I've read some synopsises, and I may have read some of this back in school, but we all know that we forget most of what we read. Oh, hello, Stream Elements, but we haven't seen you in a bit. But yes, so let's be prepared to be... sorry. Let's be prepared to be brought down a little bit. Faulkner has a way of making things ever so depressing. But there's always a little bit more to it than that. So, tonight we'll be starting As I Lay Dying. Let me shift over to our pre-moved view here, because it does make it so much easier for us to see and follow along with the words on the screen. And I'm liking the new reader. It's a little bit more friendly than the previous one. I don't think it has a limit on the library size, which is fantastic for me. Less housekeeping. Alright, so, As I Lay Dying, by William Faulkner. Darl. Jewel and I had come up from the field, following the path in single file. Although I am 15 feet ahead of him, anyone watching us from the cotton house can see Jewel's frayed and broken straw hat a full head above my own. The path runs straight as a plumb line, worn smooth by feet, and baked brick hard by July between the green rows of laid-by cotton, to the cotton house in the center of the field, where it turns and circles the cotton house at 4 soft right angles, and goes on across the field again, worn so by the feet in fading precision. The cotton house is of rough logs, from between which the chinking is long fallen. Square, with a broken roof set at a single pitch, it leans in empty and shimmering dilapidation in the sunlight. A single broad window in 2 opposite walls, giving on to the approaches of the path. When we reach it, I turn and follow the path which circles the house. Jewel, 15 feet behind me, looking straight ahead, steps in a single stride through the window. Still staring straight ahead, his pale eyes like wood set into his wooden face. He crosses the floor in 4 strides with the rigid gravity of a cigar store Indian, dressed in patched overalls and endued with life from the hips down, and steps in a single stride through the opposite window, and into the path again, just as I come around the corner. In single file, and 5 feet apart and Jewel now in front, we go on up the path toward the foot of the bluff. Tull's wagon stands beside the spring, hitched to the rail, the reins wrapped about the seat stanchion. In the wagon bed are 2 chairs. Jewel stops at the spring and takes the gourd from the willow branch and drinks. I pass him and mount the path, beginning to hear Cash's saw. When I reach the top, he has quit sawing. Standing in a litter of chips, he is fitting 2 of the boards together. Between the shallow spaces they're yellow as gold, like soft gold, bearing on their flanks in smooth undulations the marks of the adze blade. A good carpenter, Cash is. He holds the 2 planks on the trestle, fitted along the edges in a quarter of the finished box. He kneels and squints along the edge of them. Then he lowers them and takes up the adze. A good carpenter. Addie Bundren could not want a better one, a better box to lie in. It will give her confidence and comfort. I go on to the house, followed by the chuck, chuck, chuck of the adze. Cora. So I saved out the eggs and baked yesterday. The cakes turned out right well. We depend a lot on our chickens. They are good layers, what few we have left after the possums and such. Snakes, too, in the summer. A snake will break up a henhouse quicker than anything. So, after they were going to cost so much more than Mr. Tull thought, and after I promised that the difference in the number of eggs would make it up, I had to be more careful than ever, because it was on my final say-so we took them. We could have stocked cheaper chickens, but I gave my promise, as Miss Longington said when she advised me to get a good breed, because Mr. Tull himself admits that a good breed of cows or hogs pays in the long run. So when we lost so many of them, we couldn't afford to use the eggs ourselves, because I could not have Mr. Tull chide me when I told him it was on my say-so we took them. So when Miss Longington told me about the cakes, I thought that I could bake them, and earn enough at one time to increase the net value of the flock the equivalent of 2 head. And that, by saving the eggs out one at a time, even the eggs wouldn't be costing anything. And that week they laid so well that I not only saved out enough eggs above what we had engaged to sell to bake the cakes with, I had saved enough so that the flour and the sugar and the stove wood would not be costing anything. So I baked yesterday, more careful than ever I had baked in my life, and the cakes turned out right well. But when we got to town this morning, Miss Longington told me the lady had changed her mind, and was not going to have the party after all. She ought to have taken those cakes anyway, Kate says. Well, I say, I reckon she never had no use for them now. She ought to have taken them, Kate says, but those rich town ladies can change their minds. Poor folks can't. Riches is nothing in the face of the Lord, for he can see into the heart. Maybe I can sell them at the bazaar Saturday, I said. They turned out real well. You can't get $2 apiece for them, Kate says. Well, it isn't like they cost me anything, I say. I saved them out and swapped a dozen of them for the sugar and flour. It isn't like the cakes cost me anything, as Mr. Tull himself realizes that the eggs I saved were over and beyond what we had engaged to sell. So it was like we had found the eggs, or they'd been given to us. She ought to have taken those cakes when she same as gave you her word. This is all a little awkwardly phrased. Very southern. Kate says, the Lord can see into the heart. If it is his will that some folks has different ideas of honesty from other folks, it is not my place to question his degree. I reckon she never had any use for them, I say. They turned out real well, too. The quilt is drawn up to her chin, hot as it is, with only her 2 hands and her face outside. She's propped on the pillow, with her head raised so she can see out the window, and we can hear him every time he takes up the adze or the saw. If we were deaf, we could almost watch her face and hear him, see him. Her face is wasted away, so that the bones draw just under the skin in white lines. Her eyes are like two candles when you watch them gutter down into the sockets of iron candlesticks. But the eternal and the everlasting salvation and grace is not upon her. They turned out real nice, I say, but not like the cakes Addie used to bake. You can see that the girl's washing and ironing in the pillow slip, if ironed it ever was. Maybe it will reveal her blindness to her, laying there at the mercy and the administration of 4 men and a tomboy girl. She's not a woman in this section could ever bake with Addie Bundren, I say. First thing we know, she'll be up and baking again, and then we won't have any sale for ours at all. Under the quilt, she makes no more of a hump than a rail would. And the only way you can tell she is breathing is by the sound of the mattress shucks. Even the hair at her cheeks does not move. Even with that girl standing right over her, fanning her with the fan. While we watch, she swaps the fan to the other hand without stopping it. Is she sleeping? Kate whispers. She's just watching Cash yonder, the girl says. We can hear the saw in the board. It sounds like snoring. Eula turns on the trunk and looks out the window. Her necklace looks real nice with her red hat. You wouldn't think it only cost 25 cents. She ought to have taken those cakes, Kate says. I could have used the money real well, but it's not like they cost me anything except the baking. I can tell him that anybody is likely to make a miscue, but it's not all of them that can get out of it without loss. I can tell him. It's not everybody can eat their mistakes, I can tell him. Someone comes through the hall. It is Darrell. He does not look in as he passes the door. Eula watches him as he goes on, and passes from sight again toward the back. Her hand rises and touches her beads lightly, and then her hair. When she finds me watching her, her eyes go blank. Darrell. Pa and Vernon are sitting on the back porch. Pa is tilting snuff from the lid of his snuff box into his lower lip, holding the lip out and drawn between thumb and finger. They look around as I cross the porch and dip the gold into the water bucket and drink. Where's Jewel? Pa says. When I was a boy, I first learned how much better water tastes when it set a while in a cedar bucket, warmish cool, with a faint taste like the hot July wind and cedar tree smells. It has to set at least 6 hours and be drunk from a gourd. Water should never be drunk from metal. And at night, it is better still. I used to lie on the pallet in the hall, wait until I could hear them all asleep, so I could get up and go back to the bucket. It would be black, the shelf black, the still surface of the water a round orifice into nothingness, where before I stirred it awake with the dipper, I could see maybe a star or two in the bucket, and maybe in the dipper a star or two before I drank. After that I was bigger, older. Then I would wait until they all went to sleep, so I could lie with my shirt tail up, hearing them asleep, feeling myself without touching myself, feeling the cool silence blowing upon my parts and wondering if Cash was yonder in the darkness doing it too. He had been doing it perhaps for the last 2 years, before I could have wanted to or could have. Pa's feet are badly splayed, his toes cramped and bent and warped, with no toenails at all on his little toes, from working so hard in the wet and homemade shoes when he was a boy. Beside his chair, his brogan sit. They look as though they had been hacked with a blunt axe out of pig iron. Vernon has been to town. I have never seen him go to town in overalls. His wife, they say, she taught school too once. I fling the dipper dregs to the ground and wipe my mouth on my sleeve. It is going to rain before morning, maybe before dark. Down to the barn, I say, harnessing the team. Down there fooling with that horse. He will go on through the barn into the pasture. The horse will not be in sight. He is up there among the pine seedlings in the cool. Jewel whistles once and shrill. The horse snorts, and then Jewel sees him, glinting for a gaudy instant among the blue shadows. And Jewel whistles again. The horse comes dropping down the slope, stiff-legged, his ears cocking and flicking, his mismatched eyes rolling, and fetches up 20 feet away, broadside on, watching Jewel over his shoulder in an attitude kittenish and alert. "Come here, sir," Jewel says. He moves, moving that quick his coat, bunching, tongues swirling like so many flames. With tossing mane and tail and rolling eye, the horse makes another short, curveting rush and stops again. Feet bunched, watching Jewel. Jewel walks steadily toward him, his hands at his side. Save for Jewel's legs, they are like two figures carved for a tableau savage in the sun. When Jewel can almost touch him, the horse stands on his hind legs and slashes down at Jewel. Then Jewel is enclosed by a glittering maze of hooves as by an illusion of wings. Among them, beneath the upreared chest, he moves with the flashing limberness of a snake. For an instant, before the jerk comes onto his arms, he sees his whole body earth-free, horizontal, whipping snake limber till he finds the horse's nostrils and touches earth again. Then they are rigid, motionless, terrific. The horse back thrust on stiffened, quivering legs with lowered head. Jewel, with dug heels, shutting off the horse's wind with one hand, with the other patting the horse's neck, in short strokes, myriad and caressing, cursing the horse with obscene ferocity. They stand in rigid, terrific hiatus, the horse trembling and groaning. Then Jewel's on the horse's back. He flows upward in a stooping swirl like the lash of a whip, his body in midair shaped to the horse. For another moment, the horse stands spraddled, with lowered head, before it bursts into motion. They descend the hill in a series of spine-jolting jumps, Jewel high, leech-like on the withers, to the fence where the horse bunches to a scuttering halt again. "Well," Jewel says, "you can quit now if you got plenty." Inside the barn, Jewel slides running to the ground before the horse stops. The horse enters the stall. Jewel following. Without looking back, the horse kicks at him, slamming a single hoof into the wall with a pistol-like report. Jewel kicks him in the stomach. The horse arches his neck back, cropped tooth. Jewel strikes him across the face with his fist and slides on to the trough and mounts upon it. Clinging to that hay rack, he lowers his head and peers out across the stall tops and through the doorway. The path is empty. From here, he cannot even hear Cash sawing. He reaches up and drags down hay in hurried armfuls and crams it into the rack. "Eat," he says. "Get the goddamn stuff out of sight while you got a chance, you puzzle-gutted bastard. You sweet son of a bitch," he says. Jewel. It's because he stays out there, right under the window, hammering and sawing on that goddamn box, where she's got to see him. Where every breath she draws is full of his knocking and sawing, where she can see him saying, see what a good one I am making for you." I told him to go somewhere else. I said, "Good God, do you want her to see her in it?" It's like when he was a little boy, and she says if she had some fertilizer, she would try to raise some flowers. He'd taken the bread pan and brought it back from the barn full of dung. And now them others sitting there like buzzards, waiting, fanning themselves, because I said if you wouldn't keep on sawing and nailing at it until a man can't sleep even, and her hands lying on the quilt like two of them roots dug up and tried to wash, and you couldn't get them clean. I can see the fan and Dewey Dale's arm. I said, if you just let her alone, sawing and knocking and keeping the air always moving so fast on her face that when you're tired and you can't breathe it. And that goddamn ant's going. One lick less, till everybody that passes in the road will have to stop and see it and say, what a fine carpenter he is. If it had just been me when Cash fell off that church in it, if it had just been me when Parsons had laid sick with that load of wood fell on him, it would not be happening with every bastard in the county coming in to stare at her, because if there is a God, what the hell is he for? It would just be me and her on a high hill, and me rolling the rocks down the hill at their faces, picking them up and throwing them down the hill, faces and teeth and all, by God, until she was quiet and not that goddamn ad's going. One lick less, we could be quiet. Let me know if the affectation of a fake Southern accent is a little too obnoxious on this. I can tone it down, but this is all very, like, cotton country, so... It's not as bad as when we were reading Tom Sawyer. I think when we Tom Sawyer, I was damn near channeling Deep South myself, and it was not very good. I think this is a nice little balance. Just give it some flavor. All right, Darrell. We watch him come round the corner and mount the steps. He does not look at us. You ready? He says. If you'll hit stop, I say. Wait. He stops, looking at Paul. Vernon spits, without moving. He spits with decorous, deliberate precision into the pocketed dust below the porch. Pa rubs his hands slowly on his knees. He's gazing out beyond the crest of the bluff, out across the land. Jewel watches him a moment, and he goes on to the pail and drinks again. I mislike her indecision as much as air man, Pa says. It means $3, I say. The shirt across Pa's hump is faded lighter than the rest of it. There's no sweat stain on his shirt. I'd never seen a sweat stain on his shirt. He was sick once from working in the sun when he was 22 years old. He tells people that if he ever sweats, he will die. I suppose he believes it. But if she don't last till you get back, he says, she will be disappointed. Vernon spits into the dust, but it will rain before morning. She's counting on it, Pa says. She'll want to start right away, I know her. I promised her I'd keep the team here and ready. She's counting on it. Well, we'll need that $3 then to show, I say. He gazes out over the land, rubbing his hands on his knees. Since he lost his teeth, his mouth collapses in slow repetition when he dips. The stubble gives the lower face that appearance the old dogs have. You better make up your mind soon. So we can get there and get a load on before dark, I say. Ma ain't that sick, Jewel says. Shut up, Dow. He is right, Vernon says. She seems more like herself today than she has in a week. Time you and Jewel get back, she'll be sitting up. You ought to know, Jewel says. You've been here often enough looking at her. You and your folks. Vernon looks at him. Jewel's eyes look like pale wood in his high-blooded face. He is a head taller than any of the rest of us, always was. I told him that's why Ma always whipped him and petted him more, because he was peekling around the house more. That's why she named him Jewel, I told him. Shut up, Jewel, Pa says, as though he is not listening much. He gazes out across the land, rubbing his knees. You could borrow a loan of Erden's team, and we could catch up with you, I say, if she didn't wait for us. Shut your goddamn mouth, Jewel says. She'll want to go, Pa says. He rubs his knees. Don't air man mislike him more. It's laying there, watching Cash whittle on that dam, Jewel says. He says it harshly, savagely. He does not say the word. Like a little boy in the dark to flail his courage and suddenly aghast into silence by his own noise. She wanted that like she wants to go in our own wagon, Pa says. She'll rest easier for knowing it's a good one, and private. She was ever a private woman, you know it will. Let it be private, Jewel says. But how the hell can you expect it to be? He looks at the back of Pa's head, his eyes like pale wooden eyes. Shoot, Vernon says. She'll hold on till it's finished. She'll hold on till everything's ready, till her own good time. With the roads like they are now, it won't take you no time to get her to town. It's fixing up to rain, Pa says. I am a luckless man. I have ever been. He rubs his hands on his knees. It's that darn doctor, liable to come at any time. I couldn't get word to him till so late. If he was to come tomorrow and tell her the time was nigh, She wouldn't wait. I know her. Wagon or no wagon, she wouldn't wait. Then she'd be upset, and I wouldn't upset her for the living world. With that family burying ground in Jefferson, and them of her blood waiting for her there, she'll be impatient. I promised my word, me and the boys would get her there, quick as mules could walk it, so she could rest quiet. He rubs his hands on his knees. No man ever did misliked it more. If everybody wasn't burning hell to get her there, Jewel says in that harsh, savage voice, with cash all day long right under the window, hammering and sawing at there. It was her wish, Pa says. You got no affection, no gentleness for her. You never had. We would be beholden to no man, he says, me and her. We've never yet been, and she will rest quiet for knowing it, and that it was her own blood sawed out the boards and drove the nails. She was ever wanting to clean up after herself. It means $3, I say. Do you want us to go or not? Pa rubs his knees. We'll be back by tomorrow sundown. Well, Pa says. He looks out over the land. A wry head, mouthing the snuff slowly against his gums. Come on, Jewel says. He goes down the steps. Vernon spits neatly into the dust. By sundown now, Pa says. I would not keep her waiting. Jewel glances back, and then he goes on around the house. I enter the hall, hearing the voices before I reach the door. Tilting a little down the hill as our house does. A breeze draws through the hall all the time, up slanting. A feather dropped near the front door will rise and rush along the ceiling, slanting backward, till it reaches the down-turning current at the back door. So with voices. As you enter the hall, they sound as though they were speaking out of the air about your head. Cora. These are all kind of short chapters, switching from perspective, but it's with a very select number of perspectives. So it's kind of got a modern feel to it in the narrative structure. It's just quick little perspective chapters, but not like going crazy. Like sometimes if you're reading like George Martin or something like that, where it's like every chapter is someone entirely new and you just don't even know who's talking anymore. Cora. It was the sweetest thing I ever saw. It was like he knew he would never see it again. That Aunt Spundren was driving him from his mother's deathbed, never to see her in this world again. I always said Dar was different from those others. I always said he was the only one of them that had his mother's nature, had any natural affection. Not that Jewel, the one she labored so to bear and coddled and petted him so in him, flinging into tantrums or sulking spells, inventing devilment to devil her till I would have thrilled him. Time and time again. Not him to come and tell her goodbye. Not him to miss a chance to make that extra $3 the price of his mother's goodbye kiss. A Bundren, through and through, loving nobody, caring for nothing, except how to get something with the least amount of work. Mr. Tull says Dar asked them to wait. He said Dar almost begged them on his knees not to force him to leave her in her condition. But nothing would do but Aunts and Jewel must make that $3. Nobody that knows Aunts could have expected different. But to think of that boy, that Jewel, selling all those years of self-denial and downright partiality. They couldn't fool me. Mr. Tull says Mrs. Bunsen liked Jewel the least of all. But I knew better. I knew she was partial to him, to the same quality in him that let her put up with Aunt Spundren when Mr. Tull said she ought to poison him for $3, denying his dying mother the goodbye kiss. Well, why, for the last 3 weeks, I've been coming over every time I could. Coming sometimes when I shouldn't have, neglecting my own family and duties so that somebody would be here with her in the last moments, and she would not have to face the great unknown without one familiar face to give her courage. Not that I deserve credit for it. I will expect the same for myself. But thank God, it will be the faces of my loved kin, my blood and flesh, for in my husband and children I have been more blessed than most. Trials, though they have been at times. She lived, a lonely woman, lonely with her pride, trying to make folks believe different, hiding the fact that they just suffered her, because she was not cold in the coffin before they were carting her 40 miles away to bury her, flouting the will of God to do it, refusing to let her lie in the same earth with those bundrins. She wanted to go, Mr. Tull said. It was her own wish to lie among her own people. Then why didn't she go alive? I said. Not one of them would have stopped her, with even that little one, almost old enough now to be selfish and stone-hearted like the rest of them. It was her own wish, Mr. Tull said. I heard Aunt say it was. And you would believe Aunt, of course, I said. A man like you would. Don't tell me. I believe him about something he couldn't expect to make anything off me by not telling, Mr. Tull said. Don't tell me, I said. A woman's place is with her husband and children, alive or dead. Would you expect me to go back to Alabama and leave you and the girls when my time comes? That I left on my own will to cast my lot with yours for better and worse until death and after? Well, folks are different, he said. I should hope so. I've tried to live right in the sight of God and man, for the honor and comfort of my Christian husband and the love and respect of my Christian children, so that when I lay me down in the consciousness of my duty and reward, I will be surrounded by loving faces, carrying the farewell kiss of each of my loved ones into my reward. Not like Addie Bundren dying alone, hiding her pride and her broken heart. Glad to go, lying there with her head propped up so she could watch Cash building the coffin. Having to watch him so he would not skimp on it, like as not. With those men not worrying about anything, except there was time to earn another $3 before the rain came or the river got too high to get across it. Like as not, if they hadn't decided to make that last load, they would have loaded her into the wagon on a quilt and crossed the river first and then stopped and give her time to die what Christian death they would let her. Except Darrell, it was the sweetest thing I ever saw. Sometimes I lose faith in human nature for a time. I am assailed by doubt, but always the Lord restores my faith and reveals to me his bounteous love for his creatures. Not Jewel, the one she had always cherished, not him. He was after that extra $3. It was Darrell, the one that folks say is queer, lazy, pottering about the place, but no better than ants, with Cash, a good carpenter, and always more building than he can get around to, and Jewel always doing something that made him some money or got him talked about, and that near-naked girl always standing over Addie with a fan, so that every time a body tried to talk to her and cheer her up, would answer for her right quick, like she was trying to keep anybody from coming near her at all. It was Darrell. He'd come to the door and stood there, standing, looking at his dying mother. He just looked at her, and I felt the bounteous love of the Lord again, and his mercy. I saw that with Jewel she'd just been pretending, that it was between her and Darrell that the understanding and the true love was. He just looked at her, not even coming in where she could see him and get upset, knowing that Ann's was driving him away, and he would never see her again. He said nothing, just looked at her. What do you want, Darrell? Dewey Dale said, not stopping the fan, speaking up quick, keeping even him from her. He didn't answer. He just stood and looked at his dying mother, his heart too full for words. Dewey Dell. Oh, we've got a new perspective here. So it is interesting to see how the different characters see each other in this, because they all have different ideas of the dying woman here and the family around them, and who is got certain, they think each one has different ideas, and they may not, and most likely do not, match the actual intentions of these characters. It's all very human, honestly. It feels really relatable, because every family's got drama like this. You have to wonder, is it who's the favorite, who's got the real feelings, who's going out of their way to make sure that the family gets along right, who's performing. Yeah. This is why Faulkner's good. It feels real. All right. Dewey Dell. The first time me and Lev picked up down the road. Leif picked on down the road. Pa dancing, sweat, cause he will catch his death from the sickness. Oh, Pa dancing, sweat. Okay, this is extra southern. Pa dancing, sweat, cause he will catch his death from the sickness. So everybody that come to help us, and Jewel don't care about anything. He's not kin to us in caring, not care kin. And Cash, I sewing the long, hot, sad yellow days up into the planks and nailing them into something. And Pa thinks because neighbors will always treat one another that way because he will always been too busy letting neighbors do for him to find out. And I did not think the Dar would, that sits at the supper table with his eyes going further than the food and the lamp, full of the lead dug out of his skull and the holes filled with distance beyond the land. This is all sort of be reminiscent of Joseph, honestly. Like, I know the words are strung together. I know they're English. Sometimes getting the actual meaning to drill in can be a little difficult. We picked on down the road, the woods getting closer and closer in the secret shade, picking on into the secret shade with my sack and life sack, because I said, will I or won't I, when the sack was half full, because I said if the sack is full, then when we get to the woods, it won't be me. I said if it don't mean for me to do it, the sack will not be full, and I will turn up the next row, but if the sack is full, I cannot help it. It will be that I had to do it all the time, and I cannot help it. And we picked on toward the secret shade, and our eyes would drown together, touching on his hands, and my hands, and I didn't say anything. I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm picking into your sack. And so it was full when we came to the end of the row, and I could not help it. And so it was, because I could not help it. It was then, and then I saw Darl, and he knew. He said he knew, without the words, like he told me that Ma's going to die without words. And I knew he knew, because if he had said he knew the words, said he knew with the words, I would not have believed that he had been there and saw us. But he said he did know. And I said, are you going to tell Pa, and are you going to kill him? Without the words, I said it. And he said, why? Without the words. And that's why I can talk to him, without knowing, with hating, because he knows. Yeah, this is an interesting bit where the accent is definitely baked into the words here. It's coming through in full strength here, because it's like the flow and the rhythm and the word choice and the reiterations are all very, very southern in here. Like it's really just on the page, but doesn't make it super easy to understand all the time. Yeah, Faulkner was really good about that. Like you can hear it without having it in your ear. He stands in the door, looking at her. What do you want, Darl? I say. She is going to die, he says. An old turkey buzzard told, coming to watch her die because I can fool them. When is she going to die? I said. Before we get back, he says. Then why are you taking Jewel? I say. I want him to help me load, he says. Tull. Which one was Tull? Was that Paul? I'm losing track of who's who in this. Ants keeps on rubbing his knees. His overalls are faded. On one knee, a serge patch. Cut out a pair of Sunday pants. Wore iron slick. No man mislikes him more than me, he says. Fellow's got a guess ahead now and then, I say. But come long and short, it won't be no harm done neither way. She want to get started right off, he says. It's far enough to Jefferson at best. But the roads is good now, I say. It's fixing to rain tonight, too. His folk buries at New Hope, too. Not 3 miles away. But it's just like him to marry a woman born a day's hard ride ahead and have to have her die on him. He looks out over the land, rubbing his knees. No man mislikes it, and so mislikes it, he says. They'll get back in plenty of time, I say. I wouldn't worry none. It means $3, he says. Might be it won't be no need for them to rush back yet, no ways, I say. I hope it. She's a-going, he says. Her mind's set on it. It's a hard life on women. For a fact, some women. I mind my mammy lived to be 70 and more. Worked every day, rain or shine. Never a sick day since her last chap was born until one day she kind of looked around her. And then she went and taken that lace-trimmed nightgown she had 40 years and never wore out of the chest and put it on and laid down on the bed and pulled the covers up and shut her eyes. We'll all have to look out for Pa the best you can, she said. I'm tired. Ants rubs his hands on his knees. Lord giveth, he says. We can hear Cash a hammering and saw him beyond the corner. It's true. Never a truer breath was ever breathed. The Lord giveth, I say. That boy comes up the hill. He is carrying a fish nigh long as he is. He slings it to the ground and grunts, ha! And spits over his shoulder like a man. Darn nigh long as he is. What's that, I say? A hog? Where'd you get it? Down to the bridge, it says. He turns it over. The underside caked over with dust where it is wet. The eye coated over, humped over the dirt. Are you aiming to leave it laying there? Ant says. I aim to show it to Ma, Vardaman says. He looks toward the door. We can hear the talking coming out on the draft. Cash, too, knocking, hammering at the boards. There's company in there, he says. Just my folks, see. They'd enjoy to see it, too. He says nothing, watching the door. Then he looks down at the fish laid in the dust. He turns it over with his foot and prods at the eye bump with his toe, gouging at it. Answers, looking out over the land. Vardaman looks at Answer's face, then at the door. He turns, going toward the corner of the house. When Ants calls him without looking around. You clean that fish, Ant says. Vardaman stops. Why can't Dewey Dale clean it? He says. You clean that fish, Ant says. Oh, Pa. I guess Ant says, Pa, then okay. Oh, Pa, Vardaman says. You clean it, Ant says. He don't look around. Vardaman comes back and picks up the fish. It slides out of his hands, smearing wet dirt onto him, and flops down, dirtying itself again. Gap-mouthed, goggle-eyed, hiding into the dust like it was ashamed to be dead. It was in a hurry to get back hid again. Vardaman cusses it. He cusses it like a grown man, standing astraddle of it. Ants don't look around. Vardaman picks it up again. He goes on around the house, toting it in both arms like an armful of wood, it overlapping him on both ends, head and tail. Darn how big as he is. Ants's wrists dangle out of his sleeves. I never see him with a shirt on what looked like it was his in all my life. They all looked like Jewel might have given one of his old ones. Not Jewel, though. He's long-armed, even if he is spindling. Except for the lack of sweat. You could tell they ain't been nobody else's, but Ants's that way without no mistake. His eyes look like pieces of burnt-out cinder fixed in his face, looking out over the land. When the shadow touches the steps, he says, It is 5 o'clock. Just as I get up, Cora comes to the door and says it's time to get on. Ants rushes for his shoes. Now, Mr. Bundren, Cora says, don't you get up now. He puts his shoes on, stomping into them, like he does everything. Like he is hoping all the time he really can't do it and can quit trying to. When he go up the hall, we can hear them clumping on the floor like they was iron shoes. He comes toward the door where she is, blinking his eyes, kind of looking ahead of himself before he sees. Like he is hoping to find her sitting up, in a chair maybe, or maybe sweeping, and looks into the door in that surprised way, like he looks in and finds her still in bed every time, and Dewey Dell still offending her with the pan. He stands there. He don't aim to move again, nor nothing else. Well, I reckon we better get on, Cora says. I got to feed the chickens. It's fixing to rain, too. Clouds like that don't lie. And the cotton making every day the Lord sends, that'll be something else for him. Cash is still trimming at the boards. If there's e'er a thing we can do, Cora says. Ants will let us know, I say. Ants don't look at us. He looks around, blinking in that surprised way, like he had wore himself down, being surprised and was even surprised at that. The Cash just works that careful on my barn. I told Ants it likely won't be no need, I say. I so hope it. Her mind is set on it. I reckon she's bound to go. It comes to all of us, Cora says. Let the Lord comfort you. About that cone, I say. I tell him again. I will help him out if he gets into a tight, with her sick and all. Like most folks around here, I done hope him so much already. I can't quit now. I aim to get to it today, he says. Seems like I can't get my mind on nothing. Maybe she'll hold out till you were laid by, I said. If God wills it, he says. Let him comfort you, Cora says. Cash just works that careful on my barn. He looks up when we pass. Don't reckon I'll get to you this week, he says. Tain't no rush, I say. Whenever you get around to it. We get into the wagon. Cora sets the cake box on her lap. It's fixing to rain, show. I don't know what he'll do, Cora says. I just don't know. Poor Ants, I say. She kept him at work for 30-odd years. I reckon she is tired. And I reckon she'll be behind him for 30 years more, Kate says. Well, if it ain't her, he'll get another one before cotton picking. I reckon Cash and Dog can get married now, Eula says. That poor boy, Cora says. That poor little dyke. What about Jewel? Kate says. He can too, Eula says. Huh, Kate says. I reckon he will. I reckon so. I reckon there's more gals than one around here who don't want to see Jewel tied down. Well, they needn't to worry. Why, Kate, Cora says. The wagon begins to rattle. Poor little dyke, Cora says. It's fixing to rain this night. Yes, sir. A rattling wagon is mighty dry weather for a birdsole, but that'll be cured. It will for a fact. She ought to have taken them cakes after she said she would, Kate says. Ants. Darn that road. They're fixing to rain, too. I can stand here and same as see it with second sight, shutting down behind them like a wall, shutting down betwixt them and my given promise. I do the best I can, much as I can get my mind on anything, but darn them boys, laying there right up to my door, where every bad luck that comes and goes is bound to find it. I told Addie it wasn't any luck living on a road when it came by here, and she said, for the world like a woman, get up and moved in. But I told her there wasn't no luck in it, because the Lord put roads for traveling. Why, he laid them down flat on the earth. When he aims for something to be always moving, he makes it long ways, like a road or a horse or a wagon. When he aims for something to stay put, he makes it up and down ways, like a tree or a man. And so he never aimed for folks to live on a road, because which gets there first, I says, the road or the house? Did you ever know him to set a road down by a house? I says. No, you never, I says. Because it's always men can't rest till they gets the house set where everybody that passes in a wagon can spit in the doorway. Keeping the folks restless and wanting to get up and go somewhere else when you aim for them to stay put like a tree or a stand of corn. Because if he'd aimed for man to always be moving and going somewhere else, he wouldn't have put him long ways on his belly. Or wouldn't he have put him long ways on his belly, like a snake? It stands to reason he would. But anywhere every bad luck prowling could find it. Come straight to my door, charging me taxes on top of it, making me pay for cash, having to get them copping notions when it hadn't been no road come there. He wouldn't have got them. Falling off of churches and lifting no hand in 6 months, and at me, and at a slaving and a slaving, when there's plenty of sawing in this place he could do if he's got salt. And dog, too, talking me out of him. Darn them. It ain't that I'm afraid of work. Always they fed me and mine, kept a roof above us. It's that they would short-hand me, just because he tends to his own business, just because he's got his eyes full of the land all the time. I says to them, he was all right at first, his eyes full of land, because the land laid up and down ways then. It wasn't until that here road came and switched the land around long ways. His eyes still full of land, they began to threaten me out of him, try to short-hand me with the law, making me pay for it. She was well and hale as ever woman ever were, except for that road. Just laying down, resting herself in her own bed, asking not a none. Are you sick, Addie? I said, I am not sick, she said. You lay down and rest you, I said. I knowed you were not sick. You're just tired. You lay you down and rest. I am not sick, she said. I will get up. Just lay still and rest, I said. You were just tired. You can get up tomorrow. And she was laying there, well and hale as ever woman ever were, except for that road. I never sent for you, I said. I take you to witness I never sent for you. I know you didn't, people said. I bound that. Where is she? I guess the doctor, he's probably less southerny. She laying down, I said. She's just a little tired, but she'll get out in here, Ants, he said. Go sit on the porch a while. And now I got to pay for it. Me, not a tooth in my head, hoping to get ahead enough so I can get my mouth fixed where I could eat God's own victuals as a man should. And her hale and well as e'er a woman in the land until that day. Got to pay for being put to the need of that $3. Got to pay for the way for them boys to have to go away to earn it. Now I can see, same as second sight, the rain shutting down betwixt us and coming up that road like a darned man. Like it wasn't there other house to rain on in all the living land. I have heard men cuss their luck, and right, for they were sinful men. I do not say it's a curse on me, because I have done no wrong to be cussed by. I am not religious, I reckon, but peace is my heart. I know it is. I've done things but neither better nor worse than them that pretend other like, and I know that old master will care for me as e'er a sparrow that falls. But it seems hard that a man in his need could be so flouted by a road. Vardaman comes round the house, bloody as a hog to his knees. That here fish chopped up with that axe like as not. Maybe throw it away for him to lie about the dogs at it. Well, I reckon I ain't no call to expect no more of him than of his mangrove brothers. He comes along, watching the house, quiet, sits on the steps. Whew, he says, I'm pure tired. Go wash them hands, I say. Couldn't no woman strove harder than Addie to make them right, man and boy. I'll say that for her. It was full of blood and guts as a hog, he says. But I just can't seem to get no heart into anything. With this here weather sapping me too. Pa, he says, is Ma sick some more? Go wash them hands, I say. But just can't seem to get no heart into it. Everybody is just whole bundle of joy with this family. I understand. Like, Ma's been going and going and going for years, and then just up and decides it's time. Lays out. But man, everybody is just is interesting to see sort of behind the eyes and thoughts of everybody in the family as you're going through it, how they're taking this, how they're seeing the family through their own view. But you wonder which is the most honest of these views. All right, Darrell. He has been to town this week. Back of his neck is trimmed close, with a white line between hair and sunburn like a joint of white bone. He has not once looked back. Jewel, I say, running, tunnel between the two sets of bobbing mule ears. The road vanishes beneath the wagon as though it were a ribbon, and the front axle were a spool. Do you know she is going to die, Jewel? It takes 2 people to make you, and 1 people to die. That's how the world is going to end. I said to Dewey Dale, you want her to die so you can get to town, is that it? She wouldn't say what we both knew. The reason you will not say it is, when you say it, even to yourself, you will know it is true. Is that it? Well, you know it is true now. I can almost tell you the day when you know it is true. Why won't you say it, even to yourself? She will not say it. She just keeps on saying, are you going to tell Pa? Are you going to kill him? You cannot believe it is true, because you cannot believe that Dewey Dale Bundren, could have such bad luck. Is that it? The sun, an hour above the horizon, is poised like a bloody egg upon the crest of a thunderheads. The light has turned copper, in the eye potentious, in the nose sulphurous, smelling lightning. When Peabody comes, they will have to use the rope. He has puzzle-gutted himself eating cold greens. With the rope, they will haul him up the path, balloon-like, up the sulphurous ale. Jewel, I say, do you know that Addie Bundren is going to die? Addie Bundren is going to die. Okay, let's get one more chapter in here before we take a short break. Peabody is, I think, the doctor. When Aunt's finally sent for me of his own accord, I said, he has worn her out at last. And I said, a damn good thing, and at first I would not go because there might be something I could do. And I would have to haul her back, by God. I thought, maybe they have the same sort of fool ethics in heaven they have in the medical college. And it was maybe Vernon Tull sending for me again, getting me there in the nick of time, as Vernon always does things, getting the most for Aunt's money like he does for his own. But when it got far enough into the day for me to read weather sign, I knew it couldn't have been anybody but Aunt's that sent. I knew that nobody but a luckless man could ever need a doctor in the face of a cyclone. And I knew that if it had finally occurred to Aunt's himself that he needed one, it was already too late. When I reach the spring and get down and hitch the team, the sun has gone down behind a bank of black cloud like a top-heavy mountain range, like a load of cinders dumped over there, and there is no wind. I could hear Cash sawing for a mile before I got there. Hans is standing at the top of the bluff above the path. Where's the horse? I say. Jewel's taken and gone, he says. Can't nobody else catch it. You'll have to walk up, I reckon. Me, walk up, weighing 225 pounds, I say. Walk up that burn wall? He stands there beside a tree. Too bad the Lord made the mistake of giving trees roots and giving the ants bundrens he makes feet and legs. If he'd just swapped them, there would never be a worry about this country being deforested someday. Or any other country. What do you aim for me to do? I say. Stay here and get blowed clean out of the country when that cloud breaks? Even with the horse, it would take me 15 minutes to ride up across the pasture to the top of the ridge and reach the house. The path looks like a crooked limb blown across the bluff. Ants has not been in town in 12 years. How his mother ever got up there to bear him, he being his mother's son. Vardaman's getting the rope, he says. After a while, Vardaman appears with the plow line. He gives the end of it to Ants and comes down the path, uncoiling it. You hold it tight, I say. I done already wrote this visit on my books, so I'm going to charge you just the same, whether I get there or not. I got hit. Aunt says, you can come on up. I'll be damned if I can see why I don't quit. A man 70 years old, weighing 200 and odd pounds, being hauled up and down a damn mountain on a rope. I reckon it's because I must reach the $50,000 mark of dead accounts on my books before I can quit. What the hell does your wife mean, I say, taking sick on top of a darn mountain? I'm right sorry, he says. He let the rope go, just dropped it. And he is turned towards the house. There's a little daylight up there still, of the color of sulfur matches. The boards look like strips of sulfur. Cass does not look back. Vernon Tull says he brings each board up to the window for her to see it and say it is all right. The boy overtakes us. Ance looks back at him. Here's the rope, he says. Here's where he left it, I say. But never you mind that rope. I got to get back down that bluff. I don't aim for that storm to catch me up here. I'd blow too darn far once I got started. The girl is standing by the bed, fanning her. When we enter, she turns her head and looks at us. She has been dead these 10 days, I suppose. I suppose it's having been part of Aunt's for so long that she cannot even make that change, if change it be. I can remember how, when I was young, I believed death to be a phenomenon of the body. Now I know it to be merely a function of the mind. And they are the minds of the one who suffered the bereavement. And nihilists say it is the end. Fundamentalists, the beginning, when in reality it is no more than a single tenant or family moving out of a tenement or a town. She looks at us. Only her eyes seem to move, like they touch us, not with sight or sense, but like the stream from a hose touches you. The stream at the instant of impact is dissociated from the nozzle, so it had never been there. She does not look at Ance at all. She looks at me, then at the boy. Beneath the quilt, she is no more than a bundle of rotten sticks. Well, Miss Addie, I say. The girl does not stop the fan. How are you, sister? I say. Her head lies gaunt on the pillow, looking at the boy. You picked out a fine time to get me out here and bring up a storm. And then I send Ance and the boy out. She watches the boy as he leaves the room. She is not moved, save her eyes. He and Ance are on the porch when I come out. The boy is sitting on the steps. Ance standing by a post, not even leaning against it, his arms dangling, the hair pushed and matted up on his head like a dipped rooster. He turns his head, blinking at me. Why didn't you send for me sooner? I say. It was just one thing then another, he says. That air corn me and the boys was aiming to get up with, and Dewey Della taking good care of her. The folks coming in, offering to help and sitch, till I just thought, damn the money, I say. Did you ever hear of me worrying a fellow before he was ready to pay? It ain't begrudging the money, he says. I just kept thinking, she's going, is she? The darn little tyke is sitting atop the step, looking smaller than ever in the sulphur-colored light. That's the one trouble with this country. Everything, weather, all hangs on too long. Like all rivers, all land, opaque, slow, violent, shaping and creating the life of man in its implacable and brooding image. I knowed it, he says, all the while. I made show. Her mind is sort on hit. And a damn good thing, too, I say, with a trifling. He sits on the top step, small, motionless, in faded overalls. When I came out, he looked up at me, then at Ance. Now he stopped looking at us. He just sits there. Have you told her yet? Ance says. What for? I say. What the devil for? She'll know it. I know that when she sees you, she would know it. Same as writing. You wouldn't need to tell her. Her mind. Behind us, the girl says, Pa. I look at her. At her face. You better go quick, I say. When we enter the room, she is watching the door. She looks at me. Her eyes look like lamps, blaring up just before the oil is gone. She wants you to go out, the girl says. Now, Addie, Aunt says, when he come all this way from Jefferson to get you well. She watches me. I can feel her eyes. It's like she was shoving at me with them. I've seen it before, women. Seen them drive from the room, them coming with sympathy and pity, with actual help, and clinging to some trifling animal, to whom they never were more than pack horses. That's what they mean by the love that passeth understanding. That pride, that furious desire to hide that abject nakedness which we bring here with us, carry with us into the operating rooms, carry stubbornly and furiously with us into the earth again. I leave the room. Beyond the porch, Cassius Saw snores steadily into the board. A minute later, she calls his name, her voice harsh and strong. "Cash!" she says. "You, Cash!" All right. Let's take a short break here. Time to stretch our legs, stand up, top up our drinks, wet the whistle, and reflect a little bit on what we've had so far. So I'll be back in just a little bit. When we get back, we'll have a little bit of a chat, and then we'll jump back in. All right, we are back. Need to do a quick update here because we are shifting up for the rest of the evening on what the drink will be. Because I don't know about you, but Faulkner's got me feeling a little bit maudlin here. So, this is a little bit more appropriate. So far, this is an interesting read. We've got a general sort of oppressive air of impending going on, but at the same time, there's a few different sort of prevailing ideas. There's the overall sense of hopelessness. Yeah, I didn't want to crack into the Buffalo Trace for this. That's a little bit too highbrow for me for tonight. We're killing off the bottle of the cheap scotch tonight. Well, not killing it off. I've got a lot left. But the Buffalo Trace, when it comes time for that, with the pretty good bourbon, that's a dedicated night, not a nightcap. Well, I guess the other option for bourbon would be like, I've got some Evan Williams on hand, but that's more for whiskey and coke than anything. It's not bad, but that's not a decent. That's not a sipping whiskey. But yeah, so we're kind of getting a peek into the rural South mindset, because this is all very. Keep in mind, this is it was written in 1930, so there's that. But as far as the setting, let me look it up. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Evan Williams. It is an equivalent to a Jack Daniels. So if you want a mixer or something, it's great, and it is not even half the cost of the same bottle. And honestly, I think it's better. So there's that. This goes back into our talk the other night of mid-level being kind of the sweet spot. Evan Williams is like the high end of bottom shelf stuff. So it's like, all right, I'll take that any day. Okay, yeah, so it was... Yep, exactly. Okay, yeah, so this was written in 1930. And it is... I think it's set in the same time. It's not really terribly particular about when and where it's set. It's just the South, Gothic South, or Southern Gothic, they call it. And it gives a bit of a peek into the livelihood and lifestyle of the time and the place. It's a wee bit depressing and overpowering, but that's what Faulkner's all about. And you get sort of the oppressive feeling from like the women folk, how they're just taken for granted throughout their going. You get aunts, the head of the family, who is basically worthless, and just in general, there's not a whole lot of hope going along. Everyone knows what's coming. They just may not want to admit it yet. As long as they don't say it out loud, it's not quite real yet. And that's a vibe. That is a mood. The doctor coming in and being a little coming on strong is probably deserved, but harsher than these guys are used to hearing. It's very much a culture of if you avoid confrontation, then nothing's going to happen. And if at the end of the day nothing happens, it was a good day. And that's the South in a nutshell, honestly. So take things a day at a time and hope that any given day isn't worse than the last, is kind of just how you take it as you come. All right, let's go ahead and keep going. This is a decently long book, actually. Through the first hour, we're about 17% of the way through or so. So the chapters are very nice and bite-sized, but there's a fair bit of book to this. This is probably looking to be a 4 or 5 day read. So it's going to be a nice shift, because we haven't had very many that have been long in quite a while. That's a good way to put it. Quiet desperation of small town America. Because yeah, even today, small town America feels a lot like this. There might be some changes in the details, but the overall vibe is still very similar. Real world is depressing sometimes. And Faulkner catches that and encapsulates it really, really well. This is regularly rated as one of the best books of the 20th century for very good reason. Like, Faulkner is great at this. It's very relatable. It's very identifiable. Man, is it not a feel-good book. That is for damn certain. All right, let's go ahead and dive back in now. We've got some more reading to do, and we'll see how this goes. And yeah, we are definitely stuck in the same 100-year cycle that just keeps going on loop over and over and over. All right, Darl. Pa stands behind the bed. From behind his leg, Vardaman peers, with his round head and his eyes round and his mouth beginning to open. She looks at Pa. All her failing life appears to drain into her eyes. Urgent, irremediable. It's Jewel she wants, Dewey Dale says. Why, Eddie, Pa says, him and Darl went to make one more load. They thought there was time, that you would wait for them, and that $3 and all. He stoops, laying his hand on hers. For a while yet, she looks at him, without reproach, without anything at all, as if her eyes alone are listening to the irrevocable cessation of his voice. Then she raises herself. It was not moved in 10 days. Dewey Dale leans down, trying to press her back. Ma, she says, Ma. She's looking out the window at Cash, stooping steadily at the board in the failing light, laboring on toward darkness, and into it, as though the stroking of the saw illumined his own motion. Board and saw engendered. You, Cash, she shouts, her voice harsh, strong, unimpaired. You, Cash! He looks up at the gaunt face framed by the window in the twilight. It is a composite picture of all the time since he was a child. He drops the saw and lifts the bowl for her to see, watching the window in which the face had not moved. He drags a second plank into position and slants the two of them into their final juxtaposition, gesturing toward the ones yet on the ground. Shaping, with his empty hand in pantomime, the finished box. For a while still, she looks down at him from the composite picture, neither with censure nor approbation. Then the face disappears. She lies back, turns her head without so much as glancing at Paul. She looks at Vardaman, her eyes, the life in them, rushing suddenly upon them. The two flames glare up for a steady instant, and they go out, as though someone had leaned down and blown upon them. Ma, Dewey Dale says, Ma! leaning above the bed, her hands lifted a little. The fan still moving like it has for 10 days. She begins to keen. Her voice is strong, young, tremulous, and clear, wrapped with its own timbre and volume. The fan still moving steadily, up and down, whispering the useless air. Then she flings herself across Addie Bundren's knees, clutching her, shaking her with the furious strength of the young before sprawling suddenly across the handful of rotten bones that Addie Bundren left, jarring the whole bed into a chattering sibilance of mattress shots. Her arms outflung, and the fan in one hand still beating with the expiring breath into the quilt. From behind Paul's leg, Varden appears, his mouth full open, and all color draining from his face into his mouth, as though he has by some means fleshed his own teeth into himself, sucking. He begins to move slowly backward from the bed, his eyes round, his pale face fading into the dusk like a piece of paper pasted on a failing wall, and so out of the door. Paul leans above the bed in the twilight, his humped silhouette partaking of that owl-like quality of awry-feathered, disgruntled outrage, within which lurks a wisdom too profound or too inert for even thought. "Darn them boys," he says. "Joe," I say, overhead, the day drives level and gray, hiding the sun by a flight of gray spears. In the rain, the mules smoke a little, splashed yellow with mud, the off one clinging in sliding lunges to the side of the road above the ditch. The tilted lumber gleams dull yellow, water-soaked and heavy as lead, tilted at a steep angle into the ditch above the broken wheel. About the shattered spokes and about Jules' ankles, a runnel of yellow, neither water nor earth, swills. Curving with the yellow road, neither earth nor water, down the hill, dissolving into a streaming mass of dark green, neither earth nor sky. "Jewel," I say. Cash comes to the door, carrying the saw. Paul stands beside the bed, humped, his arms dangling. He turns his head, his shabby profile, his chin collapsing slowly as he works the snuff against his gums. "She's gone," Cash says. "She's taken and left us," Paul says. Cash does not look at him. "Hell, now, how you doing?" Paul says. Cash does not answer. He enters carrying the saw. "I reckon you better get at it," Paul says. "You'll have to do the best you can, with them boys going over that way." Cash looks down at her face. He's not listening to Paul at all. He does not approach the bed. He stops in the middle of the floor, the saw against his leg, his sweating arms powdered lightly with sawdust, his face composed. "If you get in tight, maybe some of them will get here tomorrow and help you." "And help you," Paul says. "Very good." Cash is not listening. He's looking down at her peaceful, rigid face fading into the dusk, as though darkness were a precursor of the ultimate earth, until at last the face seems to float, detached upon it, lightly as the reflection of a dead leaf. There's Christians enough to help you," Pa says. Cash is not listening. After a while, he turns, without looking at Pa, and leaves the room. Then the saw begins to snore again. "It will help us in our sorrow," Pa says. The sound of the saw is steady, competent, unhurried, stirring the dying light so that at each stroke her face seems to wake a little into an expression of listening and waiting. As though she were counting the strokes, Pa looks down at the face, at the black sprawl of Dewey Dale's hair, the outflung arms, the clutched fan now motionless on the fading quilt. "I reckon you better get supper on," he says. Holy shit. Dewey Dale does not move. "Get up now and put supper on," Pa says. "We got to keep our strength up. I reckon Dr. Peabody's right hungry, coming all this way. And Cash'll need to eat quick and get back to work so he can finish it in time. Dewey Dell rises, heaving to her feet. She looks down at the face. It's like a casting of fading bronze upon the pillow. The hands alone and still with any semblance of life, curled and gnarled inertness, a spent yet alert quality from which weariness, exhaustion, travail is not yet departed, as though they doubted even yet the actuality of rest, guarding with honed and penurious alertness the cessation which they know cannot last. Dewey Dale stoops and slides the quilt from beneath them and draws it up over them to the chin, smoothing it down, drawing it smooth. Then, without looking at Paul, she goes around the bed and leaves the room. She will go out where Peabody is, where she can stand in the twilight and look at his back, with such an expression that, feeling her eyes and turning, he will say, I would not let it grieve me now. She was old and sick too, suffering more than we knew. She couldn't have got well. Vardaman's getting big now, and with you to take good care of them all, I would try not to let it grieve me. I expect you better go and get some supper ready. It don't have to be much, but they'll need to eat. And she looking at him, saying, you could do so much for me if you just would. If you just knew. I am I, and you are you. I know it, and you don't know it, and you could do so much for me if you could just would. And if you just would, then I could tell you, and nobody would have to know it except you and me and Dara. Pa stands over the bed, dangle-armed, humped, motionless. He raises his hand to his head, scouring his hair, listening to the saw. He comes near and rubs his hand, palm and back, on his thigh, and lays it on her face, and then on the whole hump of quilt where her hands are. He touches the quilt as he saw Dewey Dale do, trying to smooth it up to the chin, disarranging it instead. He tries to smooth it again, clumsily, his hand awkward as a claw, smoothing it at the wrinkles which he made, which continue to emerge beneath his hand with perverse ubiquity, so that at last he desists, his hand falling to his side and stroking itself again, palm and back on his thigh. The sound of the saw snores steadily into the room. Paul breathes with a quiet, rasping sound, mouthing the snuff against his gums. God's will be done, he says. Now, I can get them teeth. Jules' head droops limp about his neck, channeling water on the soaked toe sack tied about his shoulders, as, ankle deep in the running ditch, he tries with a slipping 2x4, with a piece of rotten log for fulcrum at the axle. Jewel, I say, she is dead, Jewel. Hattie Bundren is dead. Okay, so, that being the rather focal point of the book, this is really, the book itself is more about the survivors than it is about Addie. It's about the family and those around her, and how they react and cope and try and move on. And wow almighty, is that a bad way to go about it. As soon as she, not even minutes is his wife dead, but Pa says, you better start dinner. Excuse me? I know, in the rural South, in rural communities in general, and without the convenience of just being able to go out and get food, getting supper ready is a chore that needs done. You can't just grab something out of the fridge. There is no fridge. But still, that struck as cold-hearted. And then to turn around and say, well, I guess I can get some teeth after all. Oh. Like, I know, gallows humor and all that. Trying to find something bright in bad times to take your mind off it. But that hits like a slap in the face. All right, so let's see. If the timing had worked out, that would have been a great chapter to end on, but I don't want to waste the half hour we've got left. So let's keep on going, and we'll see what is in store in the next few chapters. Yeah, exactly. He's so good at it. It's just like, it's so relatable and it's so real. It's not pretty. There's nothing to be like, there's not like the honorable poor or anything like that. No, this is the nitty-gritty, the dirty, scuffed day-to-day life of what it is to be breathtakingly, bitterly poor. It's crazy. Like, it's when I said that Faulkner was heavy in general, this is what I meant. Like, he hits you right in the gut. Because this is like, if you've grown up feeling want, this is real. And if you haven't, realize that this is how it is. This isn't some like fantasy of, oh, things, it's so bad, oh no. This isn't like a caricature of poverty. This is like realer than grapes of wrath. All right, let's try and get a couple more chapters in tonight, and we'll see how things go. Probably get a few different perspectives here of different family members and different reactions, how they're coping, moving on, whether or not they accept their new reality. We have Vardaman, the boy. Then I begin to run. I run toward the back and come to the edge of the porch and stop. Then I begin to cry. I can feel where the fish was in the dust. It is cut up into pieces of not fish now. Not blood on my hands and overalls. Then it wasn't so. It hadn't happened then. And now, she's getting so far ahead I cannot catch her. The trees look like chickens when they ruffle out into the cool dust on the hot days. If I jump off the porch, I will be where the fish was, and it all cut up into not fish now. I can hear the bed and her face and them, and I can feel the floor shake when he walks on it. That came and did it. That came and did it. She was all right, but he came and did it. The fat son of a bitch. I jump from the porch running. The top of the barn comes swooping up out of the twilight. If I jump, I can go through it, like the pink lady in the circus, into the warm smelling, without having to wait. My hands grab at the bushes. Beneath my feet, the rocks and dirt go rumbling down. Then I can breathe again. And the warm smelling. I enter the stall and try to touch him. And then I can cry. Vomit the crying. As soon as he gets through kicking, I can, and then I can cry. The crying can. Killed her. He killed her. The life in him runs under the skin, under my hand, running through the splotches, smelling up into my nose where the sickness is beginning to cry, vomiting the crying. Then I can breathe. Vomiting it. It makes a lot of noise. I can smell the life running up from under my hands, up my arms. Then I can leave the stall. I cannot find it. The dark. Along the dust. The walls, I cannot find it. The crying makes a lot of noise. I wish it wouldn't make so much noise. Then I find it, in the wagon shed, in the dust. I run across the lot and into the road, the stick jouncing on my shoulder. They watch me as I run up, beginning to jerk back, the eyes rolling, snorting, jerking back on the hitch rein. I strike. I can hear the stick striking. I can see it hitting the heads, the breast yoke, missing altogether. Sometimes they rear and plunge, but I am glad. Killed my ma! The stick breaks. They rearing and snorting, their feet popping loud on the ground, loud because it is going to rain and the air is empty for the rain. But it's long enough. I run this way and that as they rear and jerk at the hitch rein, striking. You killed her! I strike at them, striking, they wheeling in a long lunge, the buggy wheeling on to two wheels and motionless, like it is nailed to the ground, and the horses motionless, like they are nailed by the hind feet to the center of a whirling plate. I run in the dust. I cannot see, running in the sucking dust where the buggy vanishes, tilted on two wheels. I strike, the stick hitting into the ground, bouncing, striking into the dust, and then into the air again, and the dust sucking on down the road faster than if a car was in it. And I can cry, looking at the stick. It is broken down in my hand, not longer than stove wood. There was a long stick. I throw it away, and I can cry. It's not making so much noise now. The cow is standing in the barn door chewing. When she sees me, she come into the lot, and she lows, her mouth full of flopping green, her tongue flopping. I ain't going to milk you. I ain't going to do nothing for them. I hear her turn when I pass. When I turn, she's just behind me, with her sweet, hot, hard breath. Didn't I tell you I wouldn't? She nudges me, snuffing. She moans deep inside, her mouth closed. I jerk my hand, cursing her like Jewel does. Get now! I stoop my hand to the ground and run at her. She jumps back and whirls away and stops watching me. She moans. She goes on to the path and stands there, looking up the path. It's dark in the barn, warm, smelling, silent. I can cry quietly now, watching the top of the hill. Cash comes to the hill, limping where he fell off the church. He looks down at the spring, then up the road, back toward the barn. He comes down the path stiffly, and looks at the broken hitch rein, and at the dust in the road, and then up the road. Then, where the dust is gone. Hope they got clean past tools by now. I so hope it. Cass turns and limps up the path. Darn him, I showed him. Darn him. I'm not crying now. I'm not anything. Dewey Dale comes to the hill and calls me. Vitamin. I'm not anything. I'm quiet. You, Vitamin. I can cry quiet now, feeling and hearing my tears. Then it won't. It hadn't happened then. It was laying right there on the ground. Now she's getting ready to cook it. It is dark. I can hear wood, silence. I know them, but not living sounds. Not even him. It is as though the dark were resolving him out of his integrity into an unrelated scattering of components. Snuffings and stampings, smells of cooling flesh and ammoniac hair, an illusion of coordinated whole of splotched hide and strong bones within which, detached, secret, familiar, and an is different from my is. I see him dissolve, legs, a rolling eye, a gaudy splotch like cold flames, and float upon the dark and fading solution. All one, yet neither. All either, yet none. I can see, hearing coil toward him, caressing, shaping his hard shape, fetlock, hip, shoulder, and head, smelling sound. I am not afraid. Cooked in it. Cooked in it. All right. So that was the lad working through his sudden grief. That one, that's kind of hard. And it's a little hard to understand, honestly, with all that's going on. But going back to the realities of America and rural America in particular, the kids are kind of left alone to do their own thing. And sometimes that thing is working through whatever feelings they may or may not be feeling or may be trying to hide. And in this case, it's, move, action, do something, be moving. Probably something destructive, but it's something. And yeah, kids dealing with grief is always hard. All right. Dewey Dell. He could do so much for me if he just would. He could do everything for me. It's like everything in the world for me is inside a tub full of guts. You wonder how there can be any room in it for anything else very important. He is a big tub of guts, and I am a little tub of guts. And if there is not any room for anything else important in a big tub of guts, how can there be room in a little tub of guts? I know it is there because God gave woman a sign when something has happened bad. It's because I am alone. If I could just feel it, it would be different. Because I would not be alone. But if I were not alone, everybody would know it. And he could do so much for me. And I would not be alone. That I could be all right alone. I would let him come in between me and Leif. Like dog came in between me and Leif. And so Leif is alone too. He is Leif, and I'm Dewey Dale. And when Mother died, I had to go beyond and outside of me and Leif and Darl to grieve. Because he could do so much for me. And he don't know it. He don't even know it. From the back porch, I cannot see the barn. The sound of Cash's song comes in from that way. It's like a dog outside the house, going back and forth around the house or to whatever door you come in, waiting to come in. He said, I worry more than you do. And I said, you don't know what worry is, so I can't worry. I tried to, but I can't think long enough to worry. I light the kitchen lamp. The fish, cut into jagged pieces, bleeds quietly in the pan. I put it in the cupboard quick, listening into the hall, hearing. It took her 10 days to die. Maybe she don't know it is yet. Maybe she won't go until Cash. Maybe until Jewel. I take the dish of greens from the cupboard and the bread pan from the cold stove, and I stop, watching the door. Where's Vardaman? Cash says. In the lamp. His sawdust arms look like sand. I don't know. I ain't seen him. Peabody's team run away. See if you can find Vardaman. The horse will let him catch him. Well, tell them to come to supper. I cannot see the barn, I said. I don't know how to worry. I don't know how to cry. I tried, but I can't. After a while, the sound of the saw comes around, coming along the ground in the dust dark. Then I can see him, going up and down above the plank. You come in to supper, I say. Tell him. He can do everything for me, and he don't know it. He is his guts, and I'm my guts. And I'm Leif's guts. That's it. I don't see why he didn't stay in town. We are country people, not as good as town people. I don't see why he didn't. And I can see the top of the barn. The cow stands at the foot of the path, lowing. When I turn back, Cash is gone. I carried the buttermilk in. Pa and Cash and he are at the table. Where's that big fish Bud caught, sister? He says. I set the milk on the table. I never had no time to cook it. Plain turnip greens is mighty spindling eating for a man my size, he says. Cass is eating about his head. The print of his hat is sweated into his hair. His shirt is blotched with sweat. He has not washed his hands and arms. You ought to took time. I says, where's Vardaman? I go toward the door. I can't find him. Yes, sister, he says. Never mind about the fish. It'll save, I reckon. Come on, sit down. I ain't minding it, I say. I'm going to milk before it sets in to rain. Pa helps himself and pushes the dish on. But he does not begin to eat. His hands are half closed on either side of his plate. His head bowed a little. His awry hair standing into the lamplight. He looks like right after the maul hits the steer and is no longer alive and don't yet know that he's dead. Cash is eating, and he is too. You better eat something, he says. He's looking at Pa. Like Cash and me, you'll need it. Pa says. He rouses up like a steer that's been kneeling in a pond and you run at it. She would not begrudge me it. When I'm out of sight of the house, I go fast. The cow lows at the foot of the bluff. She nuzzles at me, snuffling, blowing her breath in a sweet, hot blast through my dress, against my hot nakedness moaning. You got to wait a little while, then I'll tend to you. She follows me into the barn. When I set the bucket down, she breathes into the bucket, moaning. I told you, you just got to wait now. I got more to do than I can tend to. The barn is dark. When I pass, she kicks the wall a single blow. I go on. The broken plank is like a pale plank. It's like a pale plank standing on end. Then I can see the slope. Feel the air moving on my face again. Slow, pale, with less of dark and with empty seeing. The pine clumps blotched up the tilted slope, secret and waiting. The cow in silhouette against the door nuzzles at the silhouette of the bucket, moaning. Then I pass the stall. I've almost passed it. I listen to it, saying for a long time before it can say the word, and the listening part is afraid that there may not be time to say it. I feel my body, my bones and flesh beginning to part, and upon the alone, and the process coming unalone is terrible. Leif. I lean a little forward, 1 foot advanced with dead walking. I feel the darkness rushing past my breast, past the cow. I begin to rush upon the darkness, but the cow stops me, and the darkness rushes on upon the sweet blast of her moaning breath, filled with wood and with silence. Vardaman! You, Vardaman! He comes out of the stall. You darn little sneak! You darn little sneak! He does not resist. The last of Russian darkness flees whistling away. What? I ain't done nothing. You darn little sneak! My hands shake him hard. Maybe I couldn't stop them. I didn't know they could shake so hard. They shake both of us shaking. I never done it, he says. I never touched him. My hands stop shaking him, but I still hold him. What are you doing here? Why didn't you answer when I called you? I ain't done nothing. You go on to the house and get your supper. He draws back. I hold him. You quit now. You leave me be. What were you doing down here? You didn't come down here to sneak after me. I never. You quit now. I didn't even know you was down here. You leave me be. I hold him, leaning down to see his face. Feel it with my eyes. He is about to cry. Go on now. I done put supper on, and I'll be there as soon as I milk. You better go on before he eats everything up. I hope that team runs clear back to Jefferson. He killed her, he says. He begins to cry. Hush. She never hurt him. Come and killed her. Hush. He struggles. I hold him. Hush. Killed her. Cow comes up behind us, moaning. I shake him again. You stop it now, right this minute. You're fixing to make yourself sick, and then you can't go to town. You go on to the house and eat your supper. I don't want no supper. I don't want to go to town. We'll leave you here then. Less than you behave, we will leave you. Go on now, before that old green-eating tub of guts eats everything up from you. He goes on, disappearing slowly into the hill. The crest, the trees, the roof of the house stand against the sky. The cow nuzzles at me, moaning. You'll just have to wait. What you got in you ain't nothing to what I got in me, even if you are a woman too. She follows me, moaning. Then the dead, hot, pale air breathes on my face again. He could fix it all right, if he just would. And he doesn't even know it. He can do everything for me if he just knowed it. The cow breathes upon my hips and back. Her breath warm, sweet, stertorous, moaning. The sky lies flat down the slope, upon the secret clumps. Beyond the hill, sheet lightning stings upward and fades. The dead air shapes the dead earth in the dead darkness. Further away than seeing shapes the dead earth. It lies dead and warm upon me, touching me naked through my clothes. I said you don't know what worry is. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I'm worrying or not, whether I can or not. I don't know whether I can cry or not. I don't know whether I tried to or not. I feel like a wet seed wild in the hot, blind earth. All right, that hits heavy. Not even knowing whether you can cry or not. Shit. I don't know if you've been there, but that's a tough spot to be in. You sit there and you're just stunned. Don't know how to react, or know how you should react, but you don't know how to act out the reaction. Yeesh. Yeah, I'm glad I switched up to the hard shit tonight, because this is a heavy book. All right, let's try and get through. We got enough time in us for 1 or 2 chapters, depending on how long they are. This next one's only a page long, so. Yeah, you know how you should be reacting to something, but it's just not coming out. And wondering, are you broken? Well, maybe just a little, but that's part of the process. All right, Vardaman. Oh, we're back to the kid. When they get it finished, they're going to put her in it. And then for a long time, I couldn't say it. I saw the dog stand up and go whirling away, and I said, "Are you going to nail her up in it, Cash? Cash? Cash?" I got shut up in the crib. The new door, it was too heavy for me. It went shut. I couldn't breathe because the rat was breathing up all the air. I said, "Are you going to nail it shut, Cash? Nail it? Nail it?" Paul walks round. His shadow walks around. Over Cash going up and down above the saw with the bleeding plank. Dewey Dale said, "We'll get some bananas." The train is behind the glass, red on the track. When it runs, the track shines on and off. Pa said flour and sugar and coffee cost so much. Because I am a country boy, because boys in town. Bicycles. Why do flour and sugar and coffee cost so much when he is a country boy? Wouldn't you rather have some bananas instead? Bananas are gone, eaten, gone. When it runs on the track, shines again. Why ain't I a town boy, Pa? I said God made me. I did not said to God to made me in the country. If he can make the train, why can't he make them all in the town? Because flour and sugar and coffee. Wouldn't you rather have bananas? This is a twisty. Whoa, that is a paragraph. He walks around. His shadow walks around. It was not her. I was there, looking. I saw. I thought it was her. But it was not. It was not my mother. She went away. The other one laid down in the bed and drew a quilt up. She went away. Did she go as far as town? She went farther than town. Did all those rabbits and possums go farther than town? God made the rabbits and possums. He made the train. Why must he make a different place for them to go if she is just like the rabbit? Pa walks around. His shadow does. The saw sounds like it's asleep. And so if Cash nails the box up, she's not a rabbit. And so if she's not a rabbit, I couldn't breathe in the crib and Cash is going to nail it up. And so if she lets him, it is not her. I know. I was there. I saw it when it did not be her. I saw. They think it is, and Cash is going to nail it up. It is not her. She was laying right yonder in the dirt. Now it's all chopped up. I chopped it up. It's laying in the kitchen in the bleeding pan, waiting to be cooked in it. And then it wasn't. And she was. And now it is. And she wasn't. And tomorrow it will be cooked in it, and she will be him and Pa and Cash and Dewey Dale, and there won't be anything in the box, and so she can breathe. It was lying right yonder on the ground. I can get Vernon. He was there, and he seen it. Both of us. It will be. And then it will not be. Oh. Yeah, we are fully into the let's get sad territory. Absolutely. Yikes. Faulkner does this so well. Like, he hits you right in the gut. And this is one of those books that I think while it is, there's nothing in it that is not for kids, not for young people. I think this hits so much harder when you're later in life and can remember and have gone through things like this. If you've gone through loss of your own, this hits right at your core. That's not to say that this isn't a good book for kids. Well, not kids, but for like a teenager or something. Like, it's perfectly fine to be read in school, but I don't think you can appreciate it without the lived experience. This is a lot. This is a lot. It's been a while since we read something that was so real, you know? Yeah, the internal world of the children, or of the other people. The daughter that felt super real. It's in general, like, all of his characters are so human, but he does do the children's perspective so much better than most authors. Absolutely knocks it out of the park there. Well, we're gonna go ahead and stop here, but we can chat for a little bit longer. I just need to see. Here's how I do bookmarks in this reader. There we go. Then we'll shimmy back to the other here. Yeah, so this is a lot. Like, we've read some things that have been reasonably heavy over our past year or so, and things that are like solid books, real literature. We've had a long stretch of things that are a lot lighter. Oh yeah, Barn Burning is good. That is one of his good ones. I think for a couple of years until that one's in the public domain. But we're at that awkward stage where so many foundational authors are starting to have their works fall into the public access. It's like, oh, it's a great time to be around, but you really wish that it was just a couple years faster. Like, this public domain, this copyright really need to be 100 years? Could we maybe make it like 50 or something? That'd be great. Like, you don't need more than 50 years for a property. Come on. But yeah, so back to the book. Yeah, this is a great time for American lit in particular. A lot of the foundational works for European lit are much older, and they've been in the public domain for a long time. But American lit really was coming into its own. I'd say in the early 1900s was when a lot of the really good stuff was starting to come out. Like, so some of the older stuff is still out there. You get like your Thoreau, there are a lot of poetry and things like that. But this is like when the foundation of what is going to become a modern novel was really coming into its own. It was the early 1900s. So this is a really good time for things to be going into public domain. We're getting some great books that influenced a generation, and they still feel somewhat modern. The idea of, like, because we're getting into things that were written in Depression era. Yeah, we're getting more Hemingway. We started with Hemingway. Steinbeck and Faulkner coming through. Like, these are foundational works. These authors are the titans of American lit. And it is a great time for us to be doing what we do. So, I'm hyped for it. This is, when I saw Faulkner was in this latest batch of public domain works, I was super excited. And every year from now on, we're going to be getting some big stuff, I'm sure. So, I'm hype. I do still wish it was a little bit less than 100 years, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, and well, when we started with Hemingway, I was like, we need to get Faulkner in at some point. But for so long, the only Faulkner choice that was available was The Sound and the Fury. And I'm not ready for that one. We'll get to it eventually, but that's heavy in a very different way. And that's very cerebral, and it's very, we'll read it eventually, but just not yet. But I'm very happy that we're shifting into a bit more of a serious read. Yeah, exactly. If we're going to be stuck in a 100-year cycle here, we might as well get some good stuff out of it. Yeah, so I'm happy that we're getting into a more serious book here. We've had our fun, and these real works like this are fun in their own way, but it does mean you have to give a little bit of thought to the book and imagine how the characters are feeling. Because Faulkner is so good at putting you in their shoes. The fact that his chapters are written from the character perspective, he does it so well. So well. The characters aren't just narrating their chapters. You're seeing events unfold through their eyes, feeling their thoughts they're going through. Yeah, coming out of the months of holidays, I enjoyed our holiday readings. Next year, probably a week, 2 weeks, not a full month, but it's nice to go easy sometimes, but it's also nice to get back to our roots like this. And I think I'm better at what we're doing than the last time we had a very solid book like this. So I'm hoping we can do it justice. So far, I'm having fun with this, and I'm enjoying this. So, yeah, it is. Well, because before that, we'd done our serious books for a while. Before the holiday season were serious, but just like super dry. We read, let me look back and see what we read in sequence there. I don't even remember. But yeah, so because we'd read like Lamort Arthur and things like that, and they're serious books, but very anachronistic. And we read Paradise Lost and things like that, and like almost biblical. They just read very differently. Genji. Oh yeah, Genji was just before then. Genji was in a weird spot where it was serious but not serious. The problem with Genji was, Red Badge of Courage, yeah. Yeah, we'd had a lot of like borderline books. Red Badge of Courage was one that was like, it was part serious, part not, if you know what I mean. Well, you sat through it. But Genji was an interesting novel if it wasn't for all the ick. Yeah, we had a lot of frustrating reads, all in sequence. All right, guys. We are a little bit over time, and I'm fine with that. But let's go ahead and wrap up for the night. We've got a lot of book left. I think this will be a 4-night read or so, which means we should be wrapping up sometime next weekend. And we should have some time to reflect and chat about things and events as they're going on throughout, because we're not really stretched for time. I think we got about a quarter of the way through, and that's with reacting live to some of the chapters and such. So I think we can have a solid pace without worrying too much about this, and we don't need to rush it. We can let the events sink in. If we have to stretch it out to 5, I'll not regret it at all, because Faulkner is worth it. I'm glad we're able to get back around here, come full circle from Hemingway all the way back into Faulkner now, and we'll see how this story will unfold, how heavy it will be, how close to home it will hit. Because there's some points already that are like, ooh, ooh. So, with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for the night. And we'll be back on Tuesday for our regularly scheduled reading. We'll continue from... there's not numbers in these chapters, but we'll continue from about a quarter of the way in from As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. Until then, have a wonderful night, and thank you very much for joining us. Bye now.